Good evening and welcome to our weekly Wednesday night book study. We always here at 7 o'clock every Wednesday, and it is one of two outreach events we have every week. The other one is on Tuesdays at 7, where we talk about community development. And this study we are in today is sort of connected to it in the sense that it is really important that for anybody to be interested in or even want to join us here at New Covenant House, it is important to understand who we are and what we do. And this is part of that. So we say we are Christians, but that could mean a lot of things, but we are very specific about what it means to us. So that's why we're having this study here on Wednesdays, and it doesn't just help other people understand who we are, it helps ourselves to keep ourselves on track. So here we are in Alexander Christianopoulos' book called Christian Anarchism. We are currently in chapter number 2, which is pretty much everything except the Sermon on the Mount. And we are up to subsection 11 of this second chapter. It's about the crucifixion. There are 5 sub-chapters here that deal with the crucifixion, and this is the third one in that little mini-series. We've already touched on last week that the crucifixion was not the end, but the beginning. So it says that they were, this is when Jesus meets 2 fellows who were walking to Emmaus, and they don't understand. They were looking for a kingdom, and that's not what Jesus wanted to do. They were failing to see that the suffering of the Messiah is the inauguration of the kingdom, but it's a different kind of kingdom Jesus is talking about. So we can expand a little bit on that today. It's titled The Crucified Messiah, and if you have the abridged version, which I have here, it's on page 96, chapter 2, section 11, 3. And it kind of concludes with that same theme, that it's not the end of the story, it's the beginning of the story of Jesus and his revolution. It's a short chapter, so I can pretty much read the whole thing. Except maybe I should just summarize it a little bit. And not, so it begins with, as an aside, it is worth noting that Jesus himself, and not just Paul, borrows from and refers his own actions to Jewish apocalyptic writings. So Jesus refers to the Old Testament himself. This apocalyptic literature, as Eliot noted, Eliot is one of the anarchist writers, notes, tries to restore national confidence in a background of profound political disillusionment. So it's kind of like what people are waiting for is someone who can lead them from this despair that they have with being oppressed by not only the religious and political elite, but also by the foreign power of the Romans. So it is therefore resistance literature at its best, because it promises a new dawn, a messianic deliverance through divine intervention. So there were some expectations about this Messiah that everybody has been waiting for. The messianic expectations were attributed to Jesus, and Jesus deliberately interprets these in a radical way has already been mentioned above. I kind of missed that part where it has already been missed, but I'm sure that is correct. Yet as noticed by Eliot and Yoder, so here we can see that the anarchist writers are in agreement on this point. At least Eliot and Yoder are, and they are kind of the front runners, can we say, about writing here. Tolstoy, who is always regarded as the main anarchist writer, he is conspicuously absent from this discussion. But he's also absent in other regards, so that's not really a big surprise. So yet, as noted by Eliot and Yoder, Jesus himself deliberately plays into these political hopes and symbols when he rides into Jerusalem on a donkey, in clear reference to an apocalyptic prophecy of the Messianic King's glorious entry into Jerusalem. And there's a footnote in that 278, Freedom, for Eliot's book called Freedom, Justice and Christian Counterculture, on page 179 to 80. And Yoder says The Politics of Jesus, page 39 to 40. And the biblical references there are Matthew 21, verses 1 to 11, Mark chapter 11, verses 1 to 11, and Luke chapter 19, 28 to 40, and John 12, 12 to 19. I didn't look those up, but those are the references to that. Anybody can go and look at that. And that could actually lead to a lot more discussion about this Messianic concept. But we're not going to do that today. If anybody wants to do that, let me know in the comments, and we can absolutely set some time aside for that if you want. But we would have to go to different sources about that. Therefore, Jesus deliberately sets himself up as the Messianic King, as if to consciously reawaken in his entourage the expectation that he is the long-awaited political Messiah. So Jesus kind of aligns himself with this concept that he is the Savior, the rescuer that everybody has been waiting for. So when he's triumphantly riding into Jerusalem on a donkey, and people are throwing down palm leaves and coats and whatever they have, and cheering him on, then everything changes. So when he's about to be able to declare victory, they arrest him and try him and execute him. Because I suppose it's because since he has so many followers, he's a real threat to the powers already in existence, so they have to get rid of him or find a way to do that, and they did. To those who were expecting a messianic revolution, all apocalyptic hopes seemed crushed, nailed with their leaders to the cross. So anybody who were expecting this triumphant leader, they are sadly disappointed here. And we touched a little bit on that last week also, that anybody who was looking for a utopian society would be disappointed, because that's not exactly what Jesus is here to do. So it continues. For most Christian anarchists, Jesus is the Savior precisely because he accepted the cross. That is the revolution. The cross is the revolution. He is the Messiah because he consistently responds to injustice with unwavering love, forgiveness, and non-resistance. Exactly the opposite of what people would have been expecting him to do. He does not seek to lead yet another revolutionary government. So we can say that a revolution, and that we've seen that in world history, that a revolution has happened and you end up with an even more oppressive regime than you had to begin with. So that's not what Jesus is about. But he points to the true kingdom beyond the state. So the anarchist writers are always critical about the state, and that's one of the 2 points they're trying to make in this whole thing. So Jesus' government is not the state, it's something different. Therefore, the crucifixion is indeed the glorious climax of Jesus' messianic ministry. So that's what we said. It's the beginning, not the end. It's further discussed in the conclusion. When we get there, it reveals the true character of the Messiah and the true nature of his kingdom. Jesus' messianic teaching is indeed exalted, not crushed on the cross. I think this writing is just awesome. And if you don't have it already, I encourage you to get the book. There's a Kindle version that's rather inexpensive. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have for tonight. Short chapter. But this idea that the crucifixion is a triumph and not a defeat was kind of new to me until I started reading this, and I'm sure a lot of people have also been there about that. I think much of the preaching that's happening in churches kind of try to explain that, but mostly misses the point. They're not really getting that message across in a lot of cases. So I just wanted to read another footnote down here, and that is actually more relevant to next week's reading. But it says, as noted elsewhere, a martyr. You can think about Jesus as a martyr. A martyr, etymologically, is he who makes himself a witness to his faith. And it is the ultimate testimony to one's faith to be ready to put it to practice even when one's very life is threatened. But the life to be sacrificed, it should be noted, is not that of the enemy, but martyr's own life. So that it kind of illustrates this idea that Jesus was victorious. He did not kill or in any way harm the religious leaders and the political leaders of the day, but sacrificed his own life. So next week we're going to talk about subsection 4 here in this subchapter, the crux of Jesus' political teaching. So we're going to get into that. We're talking about Andrews, is a prominent speaker about that thing, and then one more session, and we are done with the crucifixion. I really encourage you to, if you can't be here on Wednesday nights at 7, then at least if you have comments or would like to go deeper into something that we discussed, to let us know in the comments, and we can try to do that. And thank you for coming, and I'll see you next week.